5, chapter 14, text number 3 says, My dear king, family members in this material world go under the names of wife and children. But actually, they behave like tigers and jackals. A herdsman tries to protect his sheep to the best of his ability. But the tigers and foxes take them away by force. Similarly, although a miserly man wants to guard his money very carefully, his family members take away all his assets forcibly, even though he is very vigilant. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.T. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One Hindi poet has sung, Din Kadakini Rakha Bhagini Palak Palak Rahu Kose. During the daytime, the wife is compared to a witch, and at night, she is compared to a tigress. Her only business is sucking the blood of her husband, both day and night. During the day, there are household expenditures and money earned by the husband at the cost of his blood is taken away. At night, due to sex pleasure, the husband discharges blood in the form of semen. In this way, he is bled by his wife, both day and night. Yet, he is so crazy that he very carefully maintains her. Similarly, the children are also like tigers, jackals, and foxes. As tigers, jackals, and foxes take away lambs despite the herdsman's vigilant protection. Children take away the father's money, although the father supervises the money himself. Thus, family members may be called wives and children, but actually they are plunderers. Text number 4. Okay, a second. Every year, the plowman plows over his grain field, completely uprooting all weeds. Nonetheless, the seeds lie there and not being completely burned, again come up with the plants sown in the field. Even after being plowed under, the weeds come up densely. Similarly, the Grihastha ashram, family life, is a field of fruitive activity. Unless the desire to enjoy family life is completely burned out, it grows up again and again. Even though camphor may be removed from a pot, the pot nonetheless retains the aroma of camphor. As long as the seeds of desire are not destroyed, fruitive activities are not destroyed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless one's desires are completely transferred to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the desire for family life continues even after one has taken sannyasa. Sometimes in our society, ISKCON A person out of sentiment may take sannyasa, but because his desires are not burned completely, he again takes to family life, even at the risk of losing his prestige and disgracing his good name. These strong desires can be burned out completely when one fully engages in the service of the Lord in devotional service. Text number 5. Sometimes the conditioned soul in household life, being attached to material wealth and possessions, is disturbed by gadflies and mosquitoes, and sometimes locusts, birds of prey, and rats give him trouble. Nonetheless, he still wanders down the path of material existence. Due to ignorance, he becomes lusty and engages in fruitive activity. Because his mind is absorbed in these activities, he sees the material world as permanent, although it is although it is temporary, like a phantasmagoria, a house in the sky. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The following song, sung by Narottam Dasa Thakura. Ahankare mata hana, nitai padapasariya, asat yera satyakari mani. Due to forgetting the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda and being puffed up by material possessions, wealth, and opulence, one thinks the false temporary world, material world, to be an actual fact. This is the material disease. The living entity is eternal and blissful, but despite miserable material conditions, he thinks the material world to be real and factual due to his ignorance. Text number 6. Sometimes in this house, in the sky, Gandharva Pura, the conditioned soul drinks, eats, and has sex. Being overly attached, he chases after the objects of the senses just as the deer chases a mirage in the desert. Wow. Purport. There are two worlds, the spiritual and the material. The material world is false, like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, animals think they see water, but actually there is none. Similarly, those who are animalistic try to find peace within the desert of material life. It is repeatedly said in different shastras that there is no pleasure in the material world. Furthermore, even if it were agreed to live without pleasure, we are not allowed to do so. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that the material world is not only full of miseries, dukhalayam, but also temporary, asasvatam. Even if we want to live here amid miseries, of material nature, I'm sorry, uh, amid miseries, material nature will not allow us to do so. It will oblige us to change bodies and enter another atmosphere full of miserable conditions. Text number 7. Sometimes the living entity is interested in the yellow stool known as gold and runs after it. That gold is the source of material opulence and envy, and it can enable one to afford illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication. Those whose minds are overcome by the mode of passion are attached, attracted by the color of gold, just as a man suffering from cold in the forest runs after a phosphorescent light in a marshy land, considering it to be fire. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Parikshit Maharaj told Kali Yuga to leave his kingdom immediately and reside in 4 places: brothels, liquor shops, slaughterhouses, and gambling casinos. Now we know why there's places like that. However, Kali Yuga requested him to give him only one place where these 4 places are included. And Parikshit Maharaj gave him the place where gold is stored. Gold encompasses the 4 principles of sin, and therefore, according to spiritual life, gold should be avoided as far as possible. Whoa, what a statement that is. Amazing.
Is it gold or just any money?
No, it's gold.
Hmm.
If there is gold, there is certainly illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Because people in the Western world have a great deal of gold, they are victims of these 4 sins.
Hmm.
The color of gold is very glittering, and a materialistic person becomes very much attracted by its yellow color. However, this gold is actually a type of stool. A person with a bad liver generally passes yellow stool. The color of the stool attracts the materialistic person, just as the will of the wisp attracts one who needs heat. Okay. Yeah. Text number 8. Wow, people kill other people because of gold. They are overwhelmed by the desire to get rich, and they go crazy. They become crazy, and they'll kill other people to get the gold. Sometimes the conditioned soul is absorbed in finding residential quarters or apartments and getting a supply of water and riches to maintain his body. Absorbed in acquiring a variety of necessities, he forgets everything and perpetually runs around the forest of material existence. Yeah, well, you see this in Costco. People are, run around the forest of material existence, absorbed in acquiring a variety of necessities. He forgets everything and perpetually runs around the forest of material existence. That is exactly Costco. Purport. As originally mentioned, a poor man belonging to the mercantile community goes to the forest to get some cheap goods to bring back to the city to sell at a profit. He is so absorbed in the thought of maintaining body and soul together that he forgets his original spirit relationship with Krishna and seeks only the bodily comforts. Thus, material activities are the conditioned soul's only engagement. Not knowing the aim of life, the materialist perpetually wanders in material existence, struggling to get the necessities of life. Not understanding the aim of life, even though he acquires the sufficient necessities, he manufactures artificial necessities and thus becomes more and more entangled. He creates a mental situation whereby he needs greater and greater comforts. The materialist does not know the secret of nature's ways, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by nature. Due to lusty desire, the living entity creates a certain mental situation whereby he wants to enjoy this material world. He thus becomes entangled, enters different bodies, and suffers in them. Text number 9. Sometimes, as if blinded by the dust of a whirlwind, the conditioned soul sees the beauty of the opposite sex, which is called pramada. Being thus bewildered, he is raised upon the lap of a woman, and at that time his good senses are overcome by the force of passion. He thus becomes almost blind with lusty desire and disobeys the rules and regulations governing sex life. He does not know that his disobedience is witnessed by different demigods, and he enjoys illicit sex in the dead of the night, not seeing the future punishment awaiting him. Wow, that's really heavy duty. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita 7:11, it is said, Dharma viruddha bhutesu kamo smi paratar sabha. Sex is allowed only for the begetting of children, not for enjoyment. There it is. One can indulge in sex to beget a good child for the benefit of the family, society, and world. Otherwise, sex is against the rules and regulations of religious life. A materialistic person does not believe that everything is managed in nature. And he does not know that it is one, that if one does something wrong, he is witnessed by different demigods. A person enjoys illicit sex, and due to his blind lusty desire, he thinks that no one can see him, but his illicit sex is thoroughly observed by the agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the person is punished in so many ways. Presently in Kali Yuga, there are many pregnancies due to illicit sex, and sometimes abortions ensue. These sinful activities are witnessed by agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and a man and woman who create such a situation are punished in the future by the stringent laws of material nature. Illicit sex is never excused. Wow, there it is. That's a major switch. We should uh, make a placard like that. Illicit sex is never excused, and those who indulge in it are punished life after life, confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 16:20. Asurim yonim apana mudha janmani janmani mam aprap yaiva kunteya tato yanti uh, adhaman gatim. Attaining repeated birth among the species of demoniac life, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Yeah, like becoming a dog or cat and engaging in sex in public. The Supreme Personality Godhead does not allow anyone to act against the stringent laws of material nature. Therefore, illicit sex is punished life after life. Illicit sex creates pregnancies, and these unwanted pregnancies lead to abortion. Those involved become implicated in these sins, so much so that they are punished in the same way the next life. Thus, in the next life, they also enter the womb of a mother and are killed in the same way. All these things can be avoided by remaining on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness. In this way, one does not commit sinful activity. Illicit sex is the most prominent sin due to lusty desire. There it is. Illicit sex is the most prominent sin due to lusty desire. When one associates with the mode of passion, he is implicated in suffering life after life. Text number 10. Kwasit sakrit avagata vishaya vaitra tiya swayam paravidhi anena, and so forth. The conditioned soul sometimes personally appreciates the futility of sense enjoyment. Mhm. The futility of sense enjoyment. That means complete nonsense, complete
Yes,
useless
yes.
uh, time and energy of a person. So the conditioned soul sometimes personally appreciates the futility of sense enjoyment in the material world. And he sometimes considers material enjoyment to be full of miseries. However, due to his strong bodily conception, his memory is destroyed, and again he runs after material enjoyment, just as an animal runs after a mirage in the desert. Wow. Oh my God. You see this all the time where people are going to the casino to gamble and have sex. And they go to brothels, not brothel, but brothel, to engage in sex, even though they're married, even though they can go and see their wife naked all they want. That's not enough. They go and pay money to see other women naked. Purport: the main disease in material life is the bodily conception, being baffled again and again in material activity. The conditioned soul temporarily thinks of the futility of material enjoyment, but he again tries the same thing. By the association of devotees, a person may become convinced of the material futility, but he cannot give up his engagement, although he is very eager to return home back to Godhead. Oh, that is the worst thing you can do. Under these circumstances, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, compassionately takes away all his material possessions of such a devotee, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1088.8. Yasyaham anugrinami harishe tad danam sanai. Lord Krishna says that he takes everything away from the devotee whom he especially favors when that devotee is overly attached to material possessions. When everything is taken away, the devotee feels helpless and frustrated. And in society, friendship, and love, he feels that his family does not care for him any longer, and he therefore completely surrenders onto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Well, that's good. That's good. That's why Krishna sometimes will take everything away from the devotee. And that's actually uh, good for the devotee, although the devotee might not like it. This is special favor granted by the Lord to a devotee who cannot fully surrender to the Lord due to a strong bodily conception. As explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22.39, Ami Vijna A Murkhe Vishaya Kane Diba. The Lord understands the devotee who hesitates to engage in the Lord's service, not knowing whether he should again try to revive his material life. After repeated attempts and failures, he fully surrenders to the Lord's feet. He fully surrenders to the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord then gives him directions, and attaining happiness, he forgets all material engagement. Ah, well, that's very nice. That is very nice. Text 11. Sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants, who use harsh words against him, directly or indirectly. And at that time, his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Yeah, you hear crickets at night and owls. They're very loud, actually, and it's very inauspicious. Purport: there are different types of enemies within this material world. The government chastises one due to not paying income taxes. Such criticism, direct or indirect, saddens one, and sometimes the conditioned soul tries to counteract that chastisement. Unfortunately, he cannot do anything. Yeah, when the IRS comes after you, you can't do anything. You can try. Sometimes you might get away with things for some time, but eventually they get you and they make you suffer terribly. Text number 12. Due to his pious activities in previous lives, the conditioned soul attains material facilities in this life. But when they are finished, he takes shelter of wealth and riches, which cannot help him in this life or the next. Because of this, he approaches the living dead who possess these limits. Such people are compared to impure trees, creepers, and poisonous wells. Poisonous wells. So that's an amazing statement. He says the living dead who possess these things.
Hmm.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The wealth and riches acquired through previous pious activities should not be misused for sense gratification. Enjoying them for sense gratification is like enjoying the fruits of a poisonous tree. Yeah, you get poisoned. Such activities will not help the conditioned soul in any way, neither in this life nor the next. However, if one engages his possessions in the service of the Lord under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, he will attain happiness both in this world and both in this life and the next. Unless he does so, he eats a forbidden apple and thereby loses his paradise. Lord Shri Krishna therefore advises that one's possessions should be given unto him. Yet karosi yadasnasi yaj jehosi tadasyat. Yet tapasya sikonteya tat kudistro madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me, meaning Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 9:27. Material wealth and opulence attained through previous pious activities can be fully utilized for one's benefit in this life and the next if one is Krishna conscious. That's a big if. If one is Krishna conscious. One should not try to possess more than he needs for the bare necessities. If one gets more than is needed in surplus, and is needed, the surplus should be fully engaged in the Lord's service. That will make the conditioned soul the world and Krishna happy. And this is the aim of life. Okay, text number 13. Sometimes, to mitigate the stresses in this forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. You can break your neck if you jump in a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. Oh, there it is. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided, conditioned soul also approaches so called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them, either in the present or in the future. Purport: cheaters are always there to manufacture their own way of spiritual realization. To get some material benefit, the conditioned soul approaches these pseudo sannyasis and yogis for cheap blessings, but he does not receive any benefit from them. Wow. Either spiritual or material. In this age, there are many cheaters who show some jugglery and magic. They even create gold to amaze their followers, and their followers accept them as God. This type of cheating is very prominent in Kali Yuga. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura describes the real guru in this way. Samsaradava Nava Vida Loka Trinaya Karuna Gana Gana Natvam Praptasya Kalyana Gunar Avasya Vande Guru Shri Chiranarinda. One should approach a guru who can extinguish the blazing fire of this material world, the struggle for existence. People want to be cheated, and therefore they go to yogis and swamis who play tricks, but tricks do not mitigate the miseries of material life. If being able to manufacture gold is a criterion for becoming God, no, it isn't, but anyway, then why not accept Krishna, the proprietor of the entire universe, wherein there are countless tons of gold? As mentioned before, the color of gold is compared to the will o' the wisp or yellow stool. Therefore, one should not be allured by gold manufacturing gurus, but should sincerely approach a devotee like Jada Bharata. Jada Bharata instructed Rahugana Maharaj so well that the king was relieved from the bodily conception. One cannot become happy by accepting a false guru. A guru should be accepted as advised in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Sriya Uttamam. One should approach a bona fide guru to ensure to inquire about the highest benefit of life. Such a guru is described as follows. Sabde Parichanishnatam. Such a guru does not manufacture gold or juggle words. He is well versed in the conclusions of Vedic knowledge. Vedaishta sarvir aham eva vidya. Very important. He is freed from all material contamination and is fully engaged in Krishna's service. If one is able to obtain the dust of the lotus feet of such a guru, his life becomes successful. Otherwise, he is baffled both in this life and in the next. Okay, strong statement. Text 14. In this material world. 1 second. In this material world, when the conditioned soul cannot arrange for his own maintenance, despite exploiting others, he tries to exploit his own father or son, taking away that relative's possessions, although they may be very insignificant. If he cannot acquire things from his father, son, or other relatives, he is prepared to give them all kinds of trouble. Yeah. In my family, uh, there were some people like that. They're always trying to borrow money because they had a habit of taking intoxicants, and they would always try and come to my father or my mother to borrow some money. So one time my mother asked me, she said, "Do you have a handkerchief?" I said, "What?" She said, "Do you have a handkerchief?" I said, "No." So she gave me a handkerchief. She said, "You should always have this." I said, "What for?" She said, "If anyone comes and asks you for money, you should take your handkerchief and start to cry. And don't stop crying until they go away so that you don't loan them any money because if you loan people like that money, they'll never pay you back. And you'll lose a relative like that." Purport. Once we actually saw a distressed man steal ornaments from his daughter just to maintain himself. As the English proverb goes, necessity knows no law. Oh, wow, I never heard that before. Necessity knows no law. When a conditioned soul needs something, he forgets his relationship with his relatives and exploits his own father or son. We also receive information from the Srimad Bhagavatam that in this age of Kali, the time is quickly approaching when a relative will kill another relative for a small farthing, meaning a small amount of money. Without Krishna consciousness, people will deteriorate further and further into a hellish condition, wherein they will perform abominable acts. Yeah, Kali Yuga is not a nice place to be. Text number 15. In this world, family life is exactly like a blazing fire in the forest. There is not the least happiness, and gradually one becomes more and more implicated in unhappiness. In household life, there is nothing favorable for perpetual happiness. Being implicated in home life, the conditioned soul is burned by the fire of lamentation. Sometimes he condemns himself as being very unfortunate, and sometimes he claims that he suffers because he performed no pious activities in his previous life. Well, that may be a fact. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Guru Vastika, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has sung, Samsara Davanala Lida Loka Trinaya Karuna Gana Gananatvam. A life in this material world is exactly like a blazing forest fire. No one goes to set fire to the forest, yet the fire takes place. Similarly, everyone wants to be happy in the material world, but the miserable conditions of material life simply increase. Sometimes a person caught in the blazing fire of material existence condemns himself, but due to his bodily conception, he cannot get out of the entanglement, and thus he suffers more and more. Text number 16. Government men are always like carnivorous demons called rakshasas, man-eaters. Sometimes these government men turn against the conditioned soul and take away all his accumulated wealth. Being bereft of his life's reserved wealth, the conditioned soul loses all enthusiasm. Indeed, it is though he loses his life. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Raja Kula Rakshasa is very significant. Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled about 5,000 years ago, yet government men are referred to as Rakshasas. Yeah, tax collectors or carnivorous demons. If government men are opposed to a person, that person will be bereft of all his riches, which he has accumulated with great care over a long period of time. Actually, no one wants to pay income taxes. Even government men themselves try to avoid these taxes, but at unfavorable times, income taxes are exacted forcibly, and the taxpayers become very morose. Yeah, well, what is it? The month of April, you have to pay your taxes. Text 17. Sometimes the conditioned soul imagines that his father or grandfather has again come in the form of his son or grandson. Interesting. In this way, he feels the happiness one sometimes feels in a dream. And the conditioned soul sometimes takes pleasure in such mental concoctions. Due to ignorance of the real existence of the Lord, the conditioned soul imagines many things, influenced by fruitive activity. He comes together with his relatives, fathers, sons, and grandfathers, exactly as straws gather together in a moving stream. Yeah, they go on to the edge of the stream and they sort of collect. In a moment, the straws are thrown everywhere and they lose contact. In conditional life, the living entity is temporarily with many other conditioned souls. They gather together as family members, and the material affection is so strong that even after a father or grandfather passes away, one takes pleasure in thinking that they return to the family in different forms. Sometimes they may happen. Sometimes this may happen, but in any case, the conditioned soul likes to take pleasure in such concocted thoughts. Text 18. In household life, one is ordered to execute many yajnas and fruitive activities, especially the vivaha yajna, meaning getting married, the marriage ceremony for sons and daughters, and the sacred thread ceremony. These are all the duties of a grihasta, and they are very extensive and troublesome to execute. They are compared to a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to material activities. A person desiring to cross over these uh, ritualistic ceremonies certainly feels pains like the piercing of the thorns and pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. Thus, the conditioned soul suffers unlimitedly. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are many social functions for keeping a prestigious position in society. In different countries and societies, there are various festivals and rituals. In India, the father is supposed to get his children married. When he does so, his responsibility to the family is complete. Arranging marriages is very difficult, especially in this age, in these days. At the present moment, no one can perform the proper ritual of sacrifice, nor can anyone afford to pay for the marriage ceremony of sons and daughters. Therefore, householders are very much distressed when they are confronted by these social duties. It is as it is as though they were pierced by thorns and hurt by pebbles. Material attachment is so strong that despite the suffering, one cannot give up. Prahlad Maharaj therefore recommends Bhagavad Gita 7.5.5. Hitvatma patim griham andakupam vanam gato yad darim ashrayata. The so-called comfortable family position is compared to a dark well in a field. If one falls in a dark well covered by grass, his life is lost. Despite his cry for rescue, highly advanced spiritualists therefore recommend that one should not enter the Grihastha ashram. It is better to prepare oneself in the Brahmacharya ashram for the austerities and remain a pure brahmachari throughout one's life so that one will not feel the piercing thorns of material life in the Grihastha ashram. In the Grihastha ashram, one has to accept invitations from friends and relatives and perform ritualistic ceremonies. By so doing, one becomes captivated by such things, although he may not have sufficient resources to continue. To maintain the Grihastha style, one has to work very hard to accept money, to acquire money. This one, thus, one is implicated in material life, and he suffers the thorn pricks. Text 19. Sometimes, due to bodily hunger and thirst, the conditioned soul becomes so disturbed that he loses his patience and becomes angry with his own beloved sons, daughters, and wife. Thus, being unkind to them, he suffers all the more. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vidyapati Thakur has sung, Tatala Saikate Vari Bindusam Sutta Mita Ramani Samaje. The happiness of family life is compared to a drop of water in the desert. No one can be happy in family life. According to the Vedic civilization, one cannot give up the responsibilities of family life. But today, everyone is giving up family life by divorce. Oh, God. This is due to the miserable condition experienced in the family. Sometimes, due to misery, one becomes very hardened and towards his affectionate sons, daughters, and wife. Thus, this is but part of the blazing fire of the forest of material life. Yeah, so there's so many tests that we have to pass if you want to be a genuine devotee. And family life is the biggest test because there's so many situations that you get into that are basically a type of what you would call bandits taking your money away. But because of conditioning, one thinks it's his duty to give away his hard earned money to relatives. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, there was this one relative that would always come and beg money from my father. And my father was a kind man. So he would uh, grudgingly give it to the relative because he's a relative. If it was not a relative, he wouldn't give anything to that person. But because it's a relative, and he's a rascal, always taking the money from my father and spending it on liquor and prostitutes and things like that. But still, my father would give him money. So it was a very sad situation. Eventually, my father told him, "Don't come anymore to the house. I don't want to see you anymore." Okay, I think we'll stop right there. Are there any questions or comments you would like to make, my dear devotee? Any questions or comments?
Hey Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Right.
I have Haribo. I have a question. You were mentioning about family attachment and how to, when we have troubles with them, we are more focused on Krishna because that's Krishna's mercy. So we have our elderly parents, and according to Shastras, we're supposed to take care of them. So, can you explain a bit? I'm a little confused about that part. So,
Well, does the uh, family member have bad um, behavior? Like,
some do, some are okay.
right. So, I mean, like, borrowing money all the time and not paying it back, or having a problem with intoxication, or also being overwhelmed by uh, the desire to borrow money. So you should follow my mother's advice. She told me once, "Do you have a handkerchief?" I said, "No, I don't have a handkerchief." She told me, "Get one immediately." I said, "What for?" "There's also tissues." She said, "No, no, no. You have to have a handkerchief." I said, "What for?" She said, "If anyone comes to borrow money from you, start to cry, take out your handkerchief and start to cry, and don't stop until the person goes away, even if it's a member of the family." So uh, we have to be careful, because you can lose your uh, family, let's say, uh, members by loaning money. Many times, family members will borrow money from their uh, family members and not pay it back. So, what do you do in that case? Well, my suggestion is, if any member of your family asks you to loan them money, you should have a limit. You say, "Look, this is $500. This is not a loan. I'm giving it to you, but I won't give you any other money. Take this $500 and be satisfied." So sometimes, they'll come and they'll try and get you to give them, like $5,000, because they have a very good business possibility, but they need 5,000 or $50,000, whatever. But if you say, "Look, I will give you 5,000, I will give you uh, $50 or $500, and you don't have to pay me back, but I'm not going to give you any more money." So you have to have a limit, uh, a comfortable limit, where you will give money to your relatives. But you have to understand, most of the time, relatives will not pay you back. And you lose a relative by giving them large amounts of money, because they won't want to pay you back, and they won't come to your house anymore, so that they don't have to pay you back. So the best thing is to have a limit. Like, if someone is a relative and they want to borrow money from you, you should have a limit that is in your comfort zone. Like, let's say you can always give, uh, let's say, uh, $500, and it is not a loan, it is a gift. If it's a loan, it probably will never be paid back, and you lose a relative like that. So you should understand that, okay, I'll give, my limit is $500. I'll give it to the relative, and I won't force the relative to give me back the money. Anyway, you won't get the money back anyway. So you have to be ready to give away money to relatives up to a certain point. without expecting to get the money back. Sometimes the relatives might give the money back, but most of the time they won't. Because if they know that you are doing well financially, they'll think it's an insult that you want them to pay back the money that they loan you, that you loan them. So many times there can be a lot of family disruption due to borrowing money from a wealthy family member and refusing to pay it back. Okay, so thank you very much. I think we will stop there unless there are any questions or comments. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Our takeaway for today. Sometimes, due to bodily hunger and thirst, the conditioned soul becomes so disturbed that he loses his patience and becomes angry with his own beloved sons, daughters, and wife. Thus, being unkind to them, he suffers all the more. Wow. And it says, the happiness of family life is compared to a drop of water in the desert. No one can be happy in family life. According to the Vedic civilization, one cannot give up the responsibilities of family life. But today, everyone is giving up family life by divorce. This is due to the miserable condition experienced in the family. Sometimes, due to misery, one becomes very hardened toward his affectionate sons, daughters, and wife. This is but a part of the blazing fire of the forest of material life. Wow. We have to be always careful with family members, especially if they start borrowing money. You can lose a family member by loaning too much money because they don't feel they're obliged to pay you back sometimes. And if you ask for the money, they get angry, and now you lose a relative. Okay, we'll stop right there. Thank you very much, my dear devotees, and be careful about loaning money to family members. You might lose a family member by doing it. So you may have a let's say limit, like you say, I will anytime a family member asks me for money, I will give him or her up to $500 and not even want to get the money back. But how many times will you give the same person, family member, $500? Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe three times, but the fourth time you won't give anymore. So you have to have a limit of how much you're going to give without expecting to get the money back. That way, you won't lose let's say, the member of the family. So if the family member asks you to loan $5,000 or $10,000, there's a good chance that the family member will never give you back the money because it's a very large amount. And what happens? The family member will find some excuse to say, "Oh, you insulted me by asking for the money back," and you lose that member of the family member because of arguing over money. Okay, my dear devotees, thank you very much. We will stop there. And our takeaway for today. Sometimes, due to bodily hunger and thirst, the conditioned soul becomes so disturbed that he loses his patience and becomes angry with his own beloved sons, daughters, and wife. Thus, being unkind to them, he suffers all the more. That is our takeaway for today. All glories to Srila Prabhupada be
Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Have a good day. Chant Hare Krishna and beware of loaning money to anyone, especially family members. Because if they don't pay it back to you, you'll lose a family member who refuses to pay back the loan that you gave them. So everyone, you should always have a limit. You should say, look, here's a family member that's having difficulty. They want $10,000, but your limit is $500 that you do not really want to get the money back. So you give a donation of $500 and not expect to get it back. But if you give $10,000, there's a strong chance that you'll never get the money back. And at the same time, you lose a family member because they get angry and they don't want to talk to you anymore. Okay, so thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.